آمنت يخاطبه مباشرة أليس كذلك? He's talking to him directly. He didn't say you believed. He said the messenger believed. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَهَذَا تَكْرِيمًا لِلنَّبِي عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ. Even in his presence, he speaks of him in the third person to honor him, alayhi salatu wasalam. The messenger is not just any messenger. The messenger believed. And Allah is letting him know that when Jibreel first came, alayhi salam, when Jibreel first came, even the messenger had to accept Islam. Like, you know, we say somebody converted to Islam, somebody reverted to Islam, somebody took Shahada. Well, the Messenger ﷺ also had to, in a sense, become Muslim when the angel came. And that moment was a big moment. When the angel came, he has no idea what's going on. He has no clue what this is yet. When he's being shaken and he's being told, Iqra, read, he has no idea what's going on. Ma ana biqari. This is an incredible scene. And when Rasulullah ﷺ goes up to meet with Allah, Allah reminds him of that scene. يتذكر حينما آمنت بما أنزل إليك آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه. The messenger believed in what was revealed to him. You know what's remarkable about that? In the beginning of the surah, what are the first words? Alif Lam Mim ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ. What does Alif Lam Mim mean, people? What does it mean? ALM? What does it mean? Allah knows. We don't know. You know why that's important? For many reasons. One of the reasons is that before you study the Quran, the first thing you need to know is that you don't know anything. So the first ayah tells you what you're worth. You know, La ilma lana illa ma allamtana. And if you don't have that attitude, you cannot understand the rest of the Quran. Forget it. But understand this, did the Prophet ﷺ, did he know how to read? وَمَا كُنْتَ تَتْلُو مِنْ قَبْلِهِ مِنْ كِتَابٍ وَمَا تَخُطُّهُ بِيَمِينِكَ النَّبِيَّ الْأُمِّي. You know, he doesn't know how to read. Now when someone does not know how to read, the word alif doesn't make any sense. The word lam doesn't make any sense. The word mim doesn't make any sense, because these are letters of the alphabet. And the only people who learn the alphabet are people who learn how to what? Read. So the first thing that was given in the surah is reminding you that the messenger himself, alayhi salatu wasalam, has no clue how to read, and yet out of his mouth comes the word alif, lam, mim, which is impossible for someone who doesn't read. That's like saying somebody doesn't know anything about English, they don't know any alphabet, they don't know any reading, but they say W, P, R. The word R, W, P, Q, X, these words don't mean anything. These letters don't mean anything on their own. They only mean something when you go to school and you learn the alphabet. Now why is that important? It's important because when the message began and the messenger was told, read, isn't that the same? Isn't that as impossible as the messenger knowing alif and lam and mim? Isn't that the same problem? The surah actually begins with almost a reminder of the fact that the messenger cannot read, he is made to read. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then it says, وَلَمْ يَقُلْ ذَلِكَ الْقُرْآنِ. He didn't say that Quran. He said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَاب. What does kitab mean? Something written. And something written can only benefit someone who can what? Read. This messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam, is impossible for him to read. It has to be given to him. By the way, those of you who know Nahu, Dha is called ism ishara. Al-lamu lit-tanbih. Al-kaf, damir. You know, and they say the lam lit-tawkid or lil-bu'd also. And then they say al-kaf lit-tanbih. Dhalika, which is translated as the word that, is actually just that. Grammatically, it's just that. The lam makes it further distant. The kaf refers to the person you're talking to. Let me make that easy. If I was talking to you and I said, hey, look over there. Now I'm pointing over there, but I'm trying to get your attention, yeah? So how do I point over there and get your attention? I say, dhaliki. Dhaliki. The key is for her, so she can pay attention over there. And that lets me know that I'm pointing for the benefit of one person. If I was pointing over there for the benefit of all of you, I would say ذَلِكُمْ. Do you find ذَلِكُمْ in the Quran? Sure. When the angels were talking to Maryam, Salamun alayha, they don't say ذَلِكَ. They say قَالُوا كَذَلِكِ. Why? Because they're getting her attention. Now when the ayah says ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, then the ka refers to one person. Who's that? First and foremost, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that book that has been given to you, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. What I'm trying to say, here's the summarized point. What I'm trying to say is the beginning of Baqarah talks about the belief of the messenger himself. In what words? Alif Lam Mim is about the messenger himself. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ is about the messenger himself. لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى فَكُنَّا نَتَوَقَّعْ هُدًى لَكَ ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لَكَ. No, not guidance for you. It is guidance for who? لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So in the beginning of the surah, there's a transition. Belief in the messenger. And why does he have to believe in this book? Why does he have to have no doubt whatsoever? Because it will serve as guidance for the people of taqwa, which means the rest of us. Yeah? Now look at the end of the surah. آمَنَ الرَّسُولُ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ رَبِّهِ. What is that part talking about? The messenger believed in what was revealed to him from his Rabb. Who is that talking about? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then it switches over immediately. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And the believers. Just like the beginning. It started with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and switched over to the believers. The end also starts with the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and goes over to the believers. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Subhanallah. How do you do that with kalam that is years and years apart? Even down to the sentence. Even down to the sentence. Now I want you to think about this. I've talked to you about this before, but this is important to refresh. I am a student of psychology. And in psychology studies, you study something called abnormal behavior. It's called abnormal behavior. How do you define abnormal behavior? All the cars are going this way, one car is going that way. That guy is crazy. He's doing abnormal behavior. I'm talking to you in English, you talk to me in Mandarin. That's everybody speaking in English, you're speaking in Mandarin, you have abnormal behavior. Everybody's dressed up, you're not wearing a shirt. Abnormal behavior. How do you define abnormal behavior? When someone does something, nobody else is doing it. Everybody's doing one thing, this guy's doing something else. That is, by the way, the definition of abnormal behavior. And when people behave in an abnormal way, they are considered crazy. If you're not a psychologist, if you're a psychologist, you'll say this person is manic, delusional, schizophrenic, some kind of diagnosis. If you don't know psychology, you'll say, Pagal banda. You just call him crazy. Majnoon. Okay, that's what you'll say. Now, the Prophet ﷺ lived in Mecca for how long before he became a prophet? 40 years. 40 years. 40 years later, the angel comes to him, gives him wahy. He believes it. Aman al-Rasul. He had to believe too. It was a leap of faith for him too. He couldn't understand what was happening to him. You remember how he was in shock and the mother of the believers had to calm him down? And he had to get confirmation from Warqa ibn Nawfal. This is the same angel that brings wahi. He needed confirmation himself. It doesn't happen automatically. He needs affirmation too. But now imagine that you live in Makkah. You live in Makkah. And in your neighborhood, there's a man, his name is Muhammad. And you have known him for 40 years. Your family knows him for 40 years. Really nice man. Very honest, very kind, very gentle, very reliable. And then one day, after 40 years, he comes to your house. He knocks on the door. Hey, how's it going? Hey, listen, I want to talk to you about something. Last night, an angel came to me when I was out in the middle of the cave. I was spending a lot of time in the cave, and an angel came. And he grabbed me, and he shook me, and he told me to read. And I told him I don't know how to read. But then he made me read anyway. And so I am the messenger of Allah. You're laughing. You're right. You should be laughing. I am the messenger of Allah. I know you have known me for 40 years as your neighbor, but today I am no longer just your neighbor. I am no longer just your friend. I am the messenger of Allah, messenger of God, who He sends an angel to. And I say, what did you have for dinner last night? Are you feeling okay? What? And by the way, not only is that easy to believe or hard to believe? It's very hard to believe. It's very hard to believe. It's not easy to believe. And if you like him, you're not his enemy, you're his neighbor, you like him, you feel bad for him. Wouldn't you? If somebody came to you in 2015 and said, an angel speaks to me, you would say, poor guy, the hospital is that way. That's what you would do. But you know what? 1400 years ago is not any different. If you were living at that time and somebody said an angel speaks to me, you would say exactly the same thing. Your first reaction would be that this man has lost his mind, poor man has gone insane. That's what you would, even if you felt good, you're not making fun of him, you feel bad for him. He used to be such a nice man. What happened to him? Who gets worried about you? Your family gets worried about you. Your neighbors get worried about you. They feel bad for you. Everybody else thinks you're crazy. The only one who says you're not crazy is you. Now you tell me, if you live in Bahrain and there's one man, everybody calls him crazy. And he says, no, all of you are crazy because you don't believe me. Who are we going to think is right? The population or that one man? That one man? You and I are Muslims today. It's very easy. Being Muslim today is not crazy. Why not? We are 1/5 of the world's population. It's very easy to be Muslim. Because you have other people who are doing it too. And you find validation. But if you're the only one, that is hard. And I tell you, it was hardest for Rasulullah himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was the hardest. He knows, he's a very intelligent man. He knows that when he goes down and he speaks to the people, what are they going to call him? They're going to call him insane. Did they call him Majnoon, by the way? Yeah. Yeah. So now, the messenger himself has to take a leap of faith. Alhamdulillah. The messenger himself, alayhi salatu wasalam, had to come to believe, had to be convinced himself. By the way, if everybody calls you crazy, is there a chance you might start thinking maybe they're right? Possible, yeah? Maybe I should take some medication? The messenger, alayhi salatu wasalam, how many people telling him he's crazy? and then they say, some people say, you know what? Okay, you're not crazy. Where's the angel? Can you see him? No, you can't. You can't see him. You can't see him. You guys know about the Hadith Jibreel? You guys know about Hadith Jibreel? When a man walked in and sat down and asked him about Islam, and then what? Iman, and then what? Yeah, it's not a very famous Hadith. And then he left. And Rasulullah says, you know who that was? And they say, no. And then he says, who was he? Jibreel. If you were sitting there, it was like, that was Jibreel? Really? This is an act of faith. You really have to do it. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ is not a small thing. It's a big thing. And it was much bigger for them. By the way, he's the only one who believes. And anybody who believes in him will also be called what? Crazy. What's wrong with you? Why are you joining this cult? You know, these people believe in angels. You know, this man says his words come from God. This is what you would hear. And he has heard this for so long. And now he goes to meet with Allah. And Allah tells him, I appreciate your iman. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه. So beautiful. Look at the words. آمن الرسول بما أنزل الله. لا. بما أنزلنا إليك. لا. بما أنزلنا إليه. بما أنزل إليه. It's called the الماضي المبني للمجهول, the passive form. You know, again, simple English. Let me tell you what that means. You say in English, it was sent down. You don't say I sent it down, you say it was sent down. When you say it was sent down, for example, if I say it was said, what's the question that comes in your mind when I say it was said? For example, if I say good things were said, by who? By who? That man was killed. By who? My cake was eaten. By who? When you say the passive form, there's a question. The question is, who? When he says it was sent down, what question does it create? Who? By who? Who sent it down? Allah made the language mysterious on purpose. Just like He did in the beginning of the surah. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أنزل إليك وما أنزل من لم يقل أنزلناه إليك أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك. Again at the end of the surah, it's a mystery. What was sent down? Now what was sent down is the first time he heard it, he didn't even know what was happening. It's coming down, but I don't know what this is from. So Allah adds مِن رَبِّهِ. Then He solves the mystery. Then it's the first أنزل إليه, then مِن رَبِّهِ. Then from His master.